Welcome to another episode of Peers Over Beers, your favorite digital and social evangelist podcast, with your industry veteran hosts, Michael Sandoval and Chris Tetzel. This podcast starts now. Hello, and welcome to another Peers Over Beers podcast. I am one of your hosts, Michael Sandoval.
And I'm Chris Detzel.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How about you?
I'm doing good. It's a long time since we've had a one-on-one podcast with you and me. We've had a slew of guests that we've been kind of interviewing, and it's interesting just kind of learning from others around us and hearing their stories. I don't know about you, but I get like inspired. Like, oh, yeah, I've done that before. I do that before. That's pretty cool. But then,
I agree. It's super inspiring. And then, eventually I was like, man, we've had like 4 or 5 of these things just in a row. Let's, you and I need to talk.
Yeah, exactly. Like we ever have to have an excuse to talk.
Yeah, but just about, what we're working on, what we're doing and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's funny that we always, wait, before I start. So I don't know if you have your beer up, but today I decided to have wine.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm going to tell you this because since it's just you and me talking and no one else in here, you know how much I am a big wine guy.
I do.
And I hope you're sitting down when I tell you this, but I don't know if I should admit this, but it's actually a box wine.
Oh,
I know.
That's not like you.
It's not like me at all. But I've been reading a lot of stuff on in the wine industry mags about some of the box wines are actually pretty good. I mean, pretty good. You have to put some characteristics around that, right? It's not like I'm not going to serve it to like at a dinner, but it's like a Tuesday night wine or whatever. It's called Boda Box. I mean, not that they're paying us to do anything, but it's actually pretty good. I mean, it's chillable, so anything at refrigerator temperature is probably going to be fine anyway. But it's just pretty good. So that's what I'm drinking. I don't know about you.
I'm not really drinking anything actually, but I do have in my hands because I wanted to pull out a wine to see because I remember you telling my wife that just get the Kirkland, the Costco brand. It's always good. So we do have a Costco Kirkland. It's a 2018 Malbec. So
okay. I'm curious what you think about that one.
Yeah, I'll let you know whenever I
would suggest others from Kirkland, but it's a good start. Let me know how it goes.
Well, you're the one that said to get those.
Yeah, I said everything, and then you said Malbec. Oh, except for that one.
Except for that one.
Yeah, you picked the one I actually stay away from.
I think this might be the first time we've had the Malbec. So,
it's cheap and cheerful, as I say.
Yeah, it's probably like $10.
So, the reason I started about that because we always chit chat for a little bit before we start, kind of thinking about, hey, what are we going to talk about? And we definitely have a few we're going to go into, but today we're going to do about this because I like. One of the things I like talking with you is like, hey, what are you working on, man? What's going on? What's on your side of the house? And of course, we started chit chatting, and you said, "Oh, I have some interesting stuff. We're actually getting to integrations, right?" And I thought, that's pretty cool. And it's interesting because it reminds me of a podcast we did. I think it was probably in December when we did it. We were talking about an outline of things that are really important, and we were doing the vendor selection.
You had a good memory.
Yeah, it's like a trap. A vendor selection, you said one of the most important things is this idea of how do you do integrations, and as important because from a community perspective, housing all of your content on a single platform is just there, right? So part of the way you attract people is obviously getting it from Google, but then there's this whole idea of distribution of your content out to services, and those services could be as simple as RSS as readers. It could be integrating that information onto your website to help your customers find information easier. I've even seen integration on a community I did that actually was part of their home search on their website. So as you pulled up stuff, it says, hey, here are some suggestions from the community. And even just some simple APIs. So if you wanted to do your own homegrown app on mobile, those are just almost necessary to have. Not to go on about what you did, but I mean, tell me your story. How did you? What kind of integrations you got going on?
Yeah, so it's not those, although I like some of the ideas that you mentioned. So
You can add to your
no,
list.
especially on the website, there's a lot of traffic on some of the websites. Um, so for us, it's CRM, so connecting
Actually, it's a
to the
good one.
CRM. Um, Two is customers already have a login to create cases, to look at knowledge base articles and things like that. That's gated and you can't see.
Hmm.
And so bringing that login over to the community, so just SSO is one integration, and it's a no brainer, right?
Yep.
So just and then uh, the CRM itself. So when we have customers log in, we can start to look at, and this won't happen today, or once it happens, or once we do it, but then we can start looking at and integrating into what we call Gainsight. And so Gainsight is uh, it's a technology that allows customer success managers to track the their customers on how what the health is. So
Hmm.
it kind of gives them a green, red, yellow, and then there's things that you can do like NPS. You can have conversations, and you just track all that, and then it gives you kind of this um, score to say, hey, right now you're green in these areas, you're red in these areas. You got to go do these things. You know
And
what I
this is
mean?
for the
So
sales side.
it's customer success, so it's post sales. So
Okay,
it's
got it.
already customers that already exist,
Got it.
um, and so it's tracking their uh, kind of the life cycle of the journey of the customer, right? So customer buys, and then what's all the interactions and all the things that are happening, and what makes them risky or not risky, right?
Oh, okay.
By
So
these activities.
I get it. I get it. I get it. So it's like a customer churn model.
So yeah, sort of. It tells you potentially why, hey, go do these things, like reach out to the customer and see, they're red in this area. Anyway, so do you get it?
I
You get
do,
what I'm saying?
100%. I know
Okay.
exactly what it is. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So we can start tracking interactions with community. This is long term, but um, and then you could say one factor of customers renewing and maybe renewing at a higher rate or buying more, et cetera, is because of community. And so that's where I'm trying to get to, is to be able to get some of that data in from the customer.
Oh,
So
so that's interesting. So, not to go down the rabbit hole because I knew this was going to
yeah,
happen.
yeah. Already.
Already, yeah, it didn't even take long. So, is this a possibility in which 'cause, the way I heard it was in two sides? One is,
Yeah.
are there some insights I can get from this gain site
Yeah.
that, no, let me flip it around. Say, I'm going to feed you information about the community about a particular customer,
Yeah.
and based on what they do, there could be a correlation between their renewals or their loyalty marks that
Yeah.
are correlated to the community, right? So there's
That's
some
right.
value there. And that's one. And then on the other side, maybe use it to help what they call score the community. So uh, I don't know if you remember this. We did this when we were at Rexel. So, we would look at a lot of activities across the spectrum of interactions. And based on, a lot of factors, uh, what they, how they purchase, frequency of purchase, all this kind of other stuff, and some
Hmm.
other activities.
Yeah.
We can say they can look at last activity that was doing it, and they attributed a lot of it to. They can say, well, if they did these things, then they're more than likely going to stay or more likely going to go. Right? That's the whole
Yeah.
churn stuff. So, and as you know, part of the not to get specific because I don't want to necessarily ruin any relationships over there, but it was mostly a lot of very high touch online interactive stuff, like for example, say the community and some of our live chat stuff. So if they did any of those activities, they were more than likely very loyal and high buying customers. But we were able to score that using some of the models. Not to go on a winded discussion, but I'm curious if that's where you're looking to use Gainsight for.
Yeah, I think partly. I think what I want to prove out is to say when customers engage with a community in digital, they will renew at a higher rate. Maybe it's not 100% of the time, but So community can potentially move the needle from, let's just pretend like our renewal rate is 80%. So can it move it 2 points, 3 points, 4 points
Mm,
potentially,
got
right?
it.
Or at
Yeah.
the very least, maybe it's a factor in in the renewal. So we know when customers engage, then that. And then the other piece is, because of some of the things maybe we'll talk about in a minute, the activities or programs that I've put together. Um, you know, because of that, maybe they're buying, there's upsells and cross sell opportunities, and we can connect some of that somehow, some way, if
Ah,
that
okay,
makes
got it,
sense.
got it. Oh, it totally does make sense. No, exactly correct. I, um, well,
That's
this,
the
yeah,
future. So, but that's where I'm aiming. That's probably a year, maybe from now or so, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, and I think just hearing the data points, I think just as it's for the listeners, right? I think one of the things we've talked about is how to prove the value of the community, right? And there's a lot of factors we can do that. I think we were just reminded about a podcast we did around case deflection, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And uh, and I say that only because it's such an easy. I wouldn't say easy. Gosh, not to confuse simple with easy, but it's something that's near term impactful. But as I mentioned before, the longer term value of the community is going to be around loyalty numbers, NPS score, and overall share of wallet. Right, you will get an increase in uh, share of wallet and even customers to that point just by the fact of community. Right,
Yeah.
and that's proven at many levels all over the place, and we've seen it, you and I, with our things that we've done, and myself as well in my career. And in fact, even some of our guests have mentioned that as well. I think with Erica, I think we're talking about that too.
Yeah, she did.
So I'm just fascinated by this because I know you'll have a success story to talk about by doing this integration. I'm sure
Mhm.
a year from now, and it'll be another kind of proof point to those like that you should do it. And I say this because the quicker you kind of start putting the customer data from community into a well secured, understood
Yeah,
data
yeah,
housed
yeah.
environment.
You're so
And I
right.
say all those words because it's not that we're using it to be Big Daddy. It's just or whatever Big Brother. Big Daddy sounds dodgy, um, but it's to help prove the value of the community. And I remember this with Eric. I think it was Erica who said, you know. I'm almost positive it was Erica, where she was saying, I would actually go out and talk to my community members about what I'm trying to do to help
Yeah,
prove the
she did.
value, so that I can go get more money to help the community, right? And I think if it's framed in that manner, I think they would be very happy to say, "Oh yeah, if this is to help, sell the community and how much value it brings me, then yeah, absolutely."
Yeah, so I think that's more longer term, but I'm just trying to fix the plumbing, if you will, right? So how do I start the foundation of the integration piece? So that's one piece. The other piece that I'm working on is um, uh, trying to integrate data with you know. So right now there's no real way to connect customers that are on the community and Salesforce data.
Mm.
So some of that will come with this major project, but not exactly. So in the meantime, for the next year or so, um, I have kind of this data analyst or scientist that is going to help me. What's the? It's not Power BI, but there's a technology like it. Um, who is it? I forget, but it's
Tableau.
like Tableau. Yeah.
Uh huh.
So she uses Tableau, and I was like, the platform that I use is Higher Logic, and they have an API that you can just connect. And so I'm going to get her to play with it a little bit to connect some of that data,
Oh
and so we
wow.
can build some really cool and also Salesforce data to say, well, these customers are using Community, right? And then how do we kind of start looking at some of this data putting together, and then you could also do some of the Google Analytics stuff. Um, so that's kind of a side project that I'm working with her on, and so that's pretty exciting. But
Yeah, but that's kind of significant, Chris. Well, first, I almost want to go back to your SSO stuff. So I remember that
yeah,
was a
yeah,
like that was a big like man. If we just get this solved, I mean, that would be a huge lift for the community.
yeah,
But before I go into that, just the integration with Tableau and some of these other pieces, it just reminds me of earlier. Again, I want to say it was around December, January, kind of like, hey, here's my upward battle I'm trying to fight. Right, this is
yeah.
Um, just hearing your journey about how you were able. And again, we haven't talked in a while. Kind of one on one to kind of hear
Yeah, that's right.
how you how you were in a place where this is the stuff I have to work on. I'm not too sure how to get there. To I have like 3 projects kind of
Well,
underway to get these integrations done.
yeah. Well, it's interesting how times change, and so maybe it's kind of worth kind of going back and saying, one, we no longer have anybody from sea level, right? Like from when I was there in December. Um, so that's changed, and so people believe in different things, and now they believe in it. They did before, um, but not so quickly. These guys, gals, whatever, seem to be a lot quicker into making decisions. Okay, yep, let's go do it. And so, everybody's new and excited, want to get some stuff done. And
Right.
there's a lot. There's even bigger projects within the organization that moving to one CRM is key. We have several, and then some other things, like case management systems and things like that. So that because of that project, we're doing them in phases, but we'll move community stuff into that. They just kind of threw it in there, and then now I'm talking to the CIO, the person that runs the entire project or programs. She's a program manager. They just hired her, and so talking to these Salesforce IT people, that know all about, that are really technical. And then I got to call Higher Logic and get all this stuff. Same stuff we did at Rexel, just in
Yep.
a different vendors. But so just kind of putting that together. And then the last thing I want to talk about, because I think it's important kind of from a content standpoint,
Yep.
is we have a documentation site that's open to the public and I mean, they have literally thousands upon thousands of documents that are just, very specific and have to go through this rigorous process of becoming a document. Does that make
Right.
sense? It's very
Does.
technical. Um, but that's open to the public. And if you look at Google, it's like, I mean, Google is just like crawling that shit. It's crazy. It's pretty awesome.
Wow.
But the positive is um, now search, we're integrating search into the documentation site and community. So when you search on that doc site, it's another technology, but still has an API which allows us to do this. Um,
And it's on the search application.
Yeah, it's on a search that a company, not that this company that owns the doc site, or that that we use as a vendor, that they're
Okay.
building to allow us to search community documentation on the doc site, or documentation from the community site. Does that make sense?
It
So when you
does.
do a search, boom, it just comes up seamlessly wherever you are. It doesn't matter.
Oh,
Um,
very solid.
so that's pretty cool in the last piece of that whole entire thing. So when and these are all done in different phases, but um, I I think I got approval. I mean, almost done with the approvals, but we were looking at the other day, um, like kind of this case deflection widget that company that I was telling you, that owns the documentation side, or the vendor we use,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
is building kind of this case deflection widget. So when a customer or a user is looking at a case and they start typing in their case, does that make sense? Like they're gonna do a
Yes.
case, but then a drop down comes up, and so what it's supposed to do is, and you see this on a lot of different places. It shows KB articles,
Yep.
knowledge base articles,
Yep.
or uh, documentation, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna do that. I was like, well, how about community? And they're like, oh well, we don't think it should, and blah blah blah. I was like, that's
Who said
bullshit.
that? Who said we? We don't think.
The Let's just say IT. Um, and I was like, and I said, well, can you explain yourself? And he was like, well, because it's not a Imperva document, and it's not done from Imperva. And I said, well, okay, do you have
Well,
some
there's ways
data to
around
kind
it.
of?
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I don't understand. Well, if a customer were to put something in there, and maybe it's wrong, and then somebody goes off this wrong information, then we gave them and we'll be liable for it. And I was like, well, I said, just because there's a lot of industries out there, and because he said something about a specific industry, and I was like, there's a lot of industries out there, and we don't cater every KB article or whatever to every single industry. So
Hmm.
I think it's invalid unless you have some data. He goes, well, just get approval from blah blah blah. I was like, fine. So I went a lot of places and got approval, um, and it's very close. So it's got to go through legal. But now the goal is to get community to start showing on that case deflection widget, right?
Ah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because even
That's going
if
to boost your numbers.
oh yeah, in this case, like even if uh, it doesn't show much in the next, 5 months, 8 months,
Yeah,
whatever, it will future wise. Community is going to be huge. It's going to be a huge opportunity
yeah,
once you start getting hundreds and thousands of not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds or thousands of questions and answers. Then that really starts to bubble up, and
yeah,
so they'll start seeing the value in a big way. It won't be right off, but it will be. And
yeah,
so then I can say I can track case deflection. This is how many cases we deflected from the community, and that answers my question or answers everything around
mm,
case deflection. Hopefully,
mm.
maybe it's not everything, but so that's what I'm working on technology wise. Got a lot of other stuff, but
Well,
wanted to give you a
that's a
chance after
lot,
20
man.
minutes.
Oh yeah, no, we may have to go to another, but I think we said that. Hey, we'll kind of chit chat on you for a little bit, and then I'll kind of bring up what's going on my side
Yeah.
for a little bit. But no, there's a I, kind of on just to hear some of the things that are going on. Like I know we had talked on the backside of last year around, hey, here are my membership goals. Here we're trying to do. It's
Yeah.
kind of just kicking off and starting. What I'm just thrilled to hear, just kind of just again, it seems like we haven't talked in a while, and all the stuff just started popping up. I think is great. There's some momentum on your side,
There
and
is.
I think what's really great to hear is that and maybe this is a theme for folks to listen to in the effort of trying to get one thing done. What just from I remember from late part of last year how you're like trying to get started and kind of doing the membership drive. And then hearing what's going on today, it sounds like you have a lot of momentum.
It
And
seems like it. Yeah.
what's really cool is almost as if like just working on one thing started giving you some, you started knowing who to talk to, the right person to talk to, and then that kind of builds its own energy, maybe.
Yeah.
And who knows if COVID is also helping in some of that low touch type of activities. But I'm just great to hear, man, that you have some momentum, and I know the integrations are going to really pay off on membership goals and just trying to get people into the community.
Yeah, I think so. I think digital, when customers start logging in to do cases and stuff like that, just seeing that the community is available, and then click on something and go to it and things like that. I mean, that in itself will help drive membership.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we're doing some other things to kind of drive that stuff today. But it's an exciting time right now, and it seems like the things that I just mentioned is just one part of what I'm doing. So, you know,
Yeah,
and that hasn't even picked up
yeah.
Crazily yet, and that's about to pick up.
This is whole like community manager part that we haven't even talked about.
Yeah, exactly. So
Well, we'll carry on to another podcast after this, but yeah, I'll talk about what's going on my side.
right.
But not to spoil the thing, but yeah, I have a new job. I'll tell you about it on the other side.
Great. Look
Uh,
forward to it.
all right, so this has been another wonderful Peers Over Beers podcast. Thanks for joining us. My name is Michael Sandoval.
And I'm Chris Detzel.
All right, thank you guys very much. Talk to you guys later. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.